Hi, everyone. Welcome to the August 27th instance of SIG Documentation. Today, I don't think we have formal agenda items listed, but I'm sure I can go ahead and start writing some down. Do people have topics that they would like to discuss?
Yeah, so I
Okay,
have
what?
oh,
Oh,
I was
sorry,
gonna
go
say I
ahead.
have one. There's one pull request from the creator of Moonbit to add Moonbit as one of the languages in the examples. So I don't know that we have, or I don't know how this has been approached in the past, as far as other sort of uh language efforts going in as examples, and how much we include, community projects or community sort of efforts, or I guess I think there's a corporation behind it at this point, but yeah, other languages that also compile to WebAssembly as part of the guide.
Great. And then I just want to check if there's any other agenda items, and gather all of those before we keep going.
Uh, if we wanted, I think there was some chatter about cargo component that related to some of the discussion we had last time, that we could talk about a little bit. I don't know, there's probably not that much to talk about, but we could just draw attention to the fact that the conversation we were talking about is happening in Tulip.
Sounds good. Yeah, and kind of what next steps you want to take around that.
Yeah.
Can you link me to that conversation so I can put that in
Yeah.
the notes?
Yep.
Sweet. Any other, Eric, anything on WASI that we should discuss?
I think we definitely want to update the timeline, and I've got sort of a germinating effort to represent the interfaces themselves on the site, but no actual progress on that. That's more identified goals for the near future.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. Well, I think that is all the items then. Does anybody want to take notes? I can keep going. Also happy to pass the baton. All right, I'll keep going with them. Okay, Victor brought up brought up the case of Moonbit asking to add Moonbit as one of the languages and what we want to do there. I'm gonna look for that issue. My immediate thought is maintaining that. And I obviously think more languages are great. I just have concerns about maintainability of the documentation.
I dropped a link in the chat, by the way. Sorry, go ahead, Mikhail.
So I contribute to Linguist, which is the grammar that makes pretty colors for GitHub. And the maintainer is really great. And one of the guidelines in Linguist, and I think it may be relevant here, is basically like how popular is your language. Uh, Moonbit clearly has some clout, but it's not nearly as big as like C++, right, or Go or Python or Rust. I think it's reasonable, and then in the linguist repository to submit a PR for like a language, right? Let's say you want to introduce a brand new language. You basically have to submit with the PR like a URL showing like these are like all of the repositories with the syntax stem for my language. I think it's rather reasonable to sort of expect a language to be popular enough. Now, if the threshold, and this is like in addition to the maintenance that Kate brought up, if a language is popular enough, I think it's good to discuss maintaining another one. But I think if a language doesn't have enough of a critical mass, then even I think the maintenance of burden is even more magnified because then who's going to use it in proportion to something like Rust or Go?
Yeah, those are both good points. I'm a little hesitant to make it like a strictly popularity based thing, but I do get that obvious like popularity as a proxy for possible maintainers slash eyes slash enthusiasm essentially makes sense. Maybe but I also want to address this sort of like it's a bit of a chicken and egg thing, right? Like, new languages don't become popular if they're never listed anywhere. So it's like there's a little bit of both things happening there. Maybe a reasonable middle ground is including a page for like other languages and linking out rather than including a page dedicated to Moonbit. Oh yeah, exactly what you just said in the chat. Yeah, I agree with that. Like adding a page for other languages that are maybe lesser known, but have implementation or support the component model. Because I think that's also something we want to encourage. Is we want to encourage more people to support the component model in full rather than sort of just unknown slash unscripted or whatever else. So, what are people's thoughts on that?
I think that's completely reasonable. But if somebody wants to sort of advertise their language and it sort of supports the same mission, that makes sense. But like maintenance is scary. It's hard.
Um, my only, I think this is a good compromise. My only thing is we might also want to define like what languages aren't the other language category. So for example, if Grain wanted to add a page, to me, Grain is like a more popular WebAssembly oriented language that it feels like it might be top level, but from a popularity standpoint, maybe it's not. I'm not sure. But it starts to get like, I wonder how we define that line. Is there a resource we can point to that's like top programming languages? And if you're not on this, then you go to the other ones. Like kind of how Mikhail was saying, they basically were like, show us how many syntax stems are referring using your language, things like that, like having some sort of, and we don't even need to necessarily formally document it. It's like we're creating common law here. Like we can have it documented in this issue and refer to this issue next time. But just creating a structure around that would be nice.
Yeah, I wonder if having sort of like committed maintainers is a reasonable thing to ask, right? Like if it's a sort of external let's say BCA supported language, then having someone that says, like, if you can think of it kind of like the Rust sort of like target thing, where you like to add a target, you need to have someone that commits to maintaining the target and making changes where necessary. So we could do something like that. Just to check if we're on the same page here, I would think of Grain as going on that same sort of new page with like languages that implement WebAssembly. I think that the popularity filter is like applies there, but I do wonder if that's a good filter, or a filter that we should apply, I should say, rather than letting a language have a top level page if they have a committed maintainer who responds to issues and keeps things updated. But I mean, it seems like it's just a lot easier to just have a page, put the languages on there, and link out rather than as a first step.
Yeah, I especially because how do we decide if someone has a community maintainer? And it seems like the only way to decide that is them not maintaining it and then us demoting someone, which kind of hurts. Like I'd rather not demote anyone to the other pages because they've had poor maintenance. I think another approach is just define all the languages we want to have documented in the book. And then just say these are the high category languages we want documented in this book. And it might be the ones, might literally just be what we have but maybe we're missing like one or two, and we can have issues that say like define all of our top level languages. And then if you're not on that list, it's like you go in the other languages.
On the like other side of just like helping out people who have like a language that they're trying to get off the ground, one thing that I think does just make sense to highlight too is, while there is there's the reasonable concern about maintainability when there's like not necessarily like a lot of user adoption, the like benefit is like, oh, if there's not like a lot of adoption of a language, if things are out of date, not that many people are impacted by it because the language doesn't like actually have that many users, right? So like in a sense, it's not like as horrible if like a very niche language goes out of date as compared to like if we have incorrect information about like an established language like Rust or Python or C, right? So you know, and the other thing too is that when you do have like a small language like that, generally the people who are using it are more enthusiastic about it too. So I think that like if they're contributing docs, they're more likely to care about them being maintained because they're like using this as a medium to promote the language itself. So nothing like tangible there. Although, yeah, and then also I guess just the other thing too is you could, even if you like, if this, you know, scaled enough, you could consider like GitHub code spaces where like certain people have like, you know, maintainer rights over subsets of the code base. So that's a thing too. But yeah.
Okay, thanks. This sounds good. I've commented in the PR and just let them know like generally where we've kind of landed after discussing it here. And you'll be able to, I also linked earlier the like the VODs, the recorded meeting. So I think he'll be able to watch it back if he's got any questions. And so basically going forward, new page with sort of other programming languages that support the component model, and then on that page Moonbit, and eventually other languages, maybe Grain, etc. As people, you know, ask for.
I think to Kate's point as well, sort of saying the inverse of what she said, it's easier to promote than to demote. Because, you know, if these languages do become popular, it's a good sort of like hedging your bet approach. Because I think even for documentation, there's also shelf space in the same way there's shelf space on the book. I think if your guide is big enough, and I realize, you know, you may not know Go or Python, it still makes a difference about like what you choose to curate.
Yeah. I also, Victor, I read your comment. I think I'm happy after this to put up a PR with that extra page just to make it a little easier for them instead of them having to create that page. So I'll just put a to do on me and just add that and then comment, follow up with yours and just say, hey, like if you can link to here. That way, like they feel like we've taken next steps for them and like, you know.
Thanks. Yeah,
kind of
that'd be
welcome them.
great.
Cool. Okay. Any other thoughts on the Moonbit and languages? I guess this just made me think, like, are there other languages we want to have full language guides for that come top of mind for y'all?
So I actually don't think there are many actual options because it's like the sort of Venn diagram of languages that compile to WebAssembly and languages that support the component model is very small right now, or the sort of the intersection is. But there is work being done on C++, a sort of binding. Oh, but you know what? Sorry, that's actually unrelated because that's more of a host thing rather than a guest thing. Because like for C++, you can still just use like the C bindgen stuff. So actually, never mind. I don't know another language that's got sort of high quality component model support.
I'm not going to do it right now, but Zig is a language that I've explored adding component model support for in the past, and like made a decent amount of progress on it. And I think if it, yeah, at some point, like somebody could just decide it's important and it wouldn't take that much time to make it so that there was component model support for Zig. But yeah, probably not like a today thing.
Thanks, Colin. Okay, so our next topic is about archiving how cargo component is being archived. I think it already was, it's actively archived. We kind of got, I feel like a month or so back, we started thinking about the fact that it's unmaintained, maybe more than months, several months. It doesn't have a clear maintainer, and the Bytecode Alliance as an organization is officially archiving it now. So what that means is we're going to need to update all of our documentation to no longer use cargo component. I'm putting the link to the chat in Zloop so people have, or link to the Zloop chat in the meeting notes so that people can have more, can dive a little deeper into that conversation. Do people have thoughts they want to add or add more context from that thread?
Just to make sure, did they decide for sure that it's getting archived? And it seems like there's consensus that it should be archived, but I don't know if anybody like stamped it like is. I don't know if the current status at this moment is archived yet. But yeah.
Yeah, it to Danny's point, it doesn't seem archived. I'm looking through some of the comments that Bailey and let me see, I think Alex mentioned. So it seems like the path forward is just going to be to use the standard P2 target and some libs. I'm just curious what the overlap is with the existing maintained tooling, and what is there any gaps from cargo component to like moving off of it?
So I think, yeah, it seems like it probably is going to be archived though. Like even though I'm calling out that like at this moment it's not archived, I think that it seems like it's almost certainly going to be archived. I just wanted to, yeah. But I think the main thing is I'm not sure to what extent at this point the Rust stuff like makes use of WASM package tools or like whackage, and like, you know, just it'll have to be clear that like those will have to be different steps if we're not using cargo component. I haven't formulated a response to put in that thread myself yet, but Pat said something that I think is like in the middle of some text and easy to miss about like wit bind gen potentially like adding a dependency on whackage, which I think would be a pretty good way to take the burden off of users to run whackage tools, whackage commands themselves. And so like I think that would be like, if I think that would be the really, I like agree that like having wit bind gen use whackage would make it so that users don't have to think as hard about fetching wit from registries. So that it would be good to like emphasize that I don't know where that would be like initiated, like people organizing around doing that work, but it seems like that would be a pretty good thing to do, especially if we're like decommissioning cargo component and not having like it serve as an example for other languages, but instead be like this isn't what we're doing. So
Is there an issue for that? Not on the,
yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, yeah, I doubt that there's an issue for that. Like I actually haven't really heard people say that. Right? I think in the past there was like, you know, concern, like thoughts about adding registry aware dependencies to various crates, and like, you know, like wondering whether WASM tools should ever have a dependency on whackage or right. So I think I don't think there was ever that much conversation about having wit bind gen depend on whackage. So, and I could open an issue. I just don't know if anybody thinks it's a good idea other than Pat and me.
I mean, I think your point of being able to more easily fetch packages seems like a great idea. So, and having an issue is another way to discuss that. So if you're willing to put that up as an issue on WhipBindgen, I think that would be helpful to track.
Yeah, maybe I think I'll start with, maybe I'll ask like in the question and like gain some sentiment, you know, about it first. But yeah, and I think yes, I'll try and do some things.
I think one thing that group would like would be, before the official archiving, would be to have all of our docs updated. So on that note, like, we want to completely revamp the examples and the Rust guide. Is there someone who's excited about taking on that work?
I can take on some of it. I think it's a good idea. I'm curious if there's any of that. You think, Kate, it'll be easier to do it in one pass or piecemeal?
I think it's fine to do it piecemeal. Both solutions would work. So that's also fine. And that's a good idea. We could break it up. They mentioned, just to write out a few things to do around it. Some of the comments were like, on the base of the component docs, having kind of a notice that like cargo component is no longer going to be the primary tool, and this documentation reflects that.
I can put
and
a
then
request for that. I'm curious if we should link to the Zulip chat for that, or is there a more efficient though?
no, I think it'll be official once it's officially archived, but we're gonna, for now, just you can
So
say
should we hold off on that
change.
notice until the deed is done?
I would hold off until, yeah, we've done it, but I was just starting to write through. So like, notice to not use cargo component, update our examples, and update the Rust guide. Victor, was this something you were interested in? I don't know if I was told within, like, I heard from someone else that was something that you were interested in taking on, but also that may have changed. So I'm also, all three of us can work on it, but I just wanted to check in on that.
Yeah, I'm definitely open to updating the Rust guide, and sort of ripping out the cargo component stuff from it. I can just take a look at it. I don't think it'll. I think I can go through all of it at once, just because. I mean, to sort of mirror what Tim has been doing as well, just going through the pages and making sure it works like top to bottom. I think it's something we haven't done for a while for the Rust stuff. Like he submitted some updates and made some fixes, but I think that's something worth doing again. So I'm definitely happy to do that and make sure it works, and then top to bottom.
And
But
do you
I'm
want to
down
do the
to do that.
examples as well, or do you want one of us to do the examples? Because we can, okay.
Yeah. So the host example is not going to change, right? So this is just the
Right.
yeah. And
Just the actual components examples.
I'm actually wondering if we even do have the. Okay, we do have the Rust example in there. I was just unsure for a second, but yeah, yes, I'll update that as well.
It sounds like you guys have plenty of hands, but I was good when you asked if anybody's excited to do it. I am excited to do it, but I also probably shouldn't prioritize it too much. But I could help out some if anybody wants some help.
Well, let's all rally around this and just all be attentive on reviewing then, and put our energy into passionate reviews of Victor's work, and then get it through faster. And then we can also be second sweeps. So other places that this will need to be done would be things we link out to. So like, I think we link out to a middleware auth component that uses cargo components. I can update that. We link out to the Wasm time serve example, which Yosh owns and he might update, but otherwise, like, Michaela, if you wanted, you could update that, like put a PR into that repo to update that one. Basically anything we link out to and stuff like that, checking on those as well.
To that point, and maybe not to like overcomplicate things, is it a good idea to sort of know like what our downstream dependents are for that? Because I just forgot the two things you mentioned, Kate, for example. So,
Um, I was just saying anything we link out to, which I think most of those are probably on the Rust guide page still, because
okay.
I
So we
think
do mention them.
those, yeah, we definitely mention them. So I was thinking the auth middleware component and the wasm times serve example that Yosh owns.
Hmm.
I can update the auth middleware one.
Hmm.
Um, oh, another one is, are there any Bytecode Alliance blogs that use cargo component that we should update? Like already published?
I would guess there are several, but I have no idea.
Would anybody be interested in pursuing that?
Yeah,
Um,
I can take that on.
okay, so those would be in the Bytecode Alliance org repo. And I think first I would create an issue within that org just to say, hey, should we update these references to no longer use cargo component?
I think you might have been muted, Kate, if you were saying something just now.
Oh, can you hear me now?
I heard her.
Yeah, you're definitely muted.
I heard her too the whole time. You're good, Kate.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so Mikhail, is the link you're linking to just for us to review other projects that might have it?
Well, it's just
Oh,
a
wait.
cursory call out. Mhm.
Is it me?
Yeah.
I think it is you, Victor.
Okay, sorry. It's me. Never mind.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, Kate. I was just actively browsing around, so yeah. I suppose what it was a distraction, but I can definitely go into the repository because it looks like all of those have links to them. But it does land on the homepage. So you mentioned there was a central HTML page for this sort of stuff.
Yes, so I'm thinking about the Bytecode Alliance blog itself. Let me see if I can find it's bytecodealliance.org is the repo. I'm sharing it in chat.
Okay.
Which I don't see cargo component referenced in there really. There's one blog from 2024. So this one.
Should I start a issue in component docs that track this stuff, or do you think there's a better place for that?
I would do each one where I find it, but I guess is this issue just like, I guess what is this issue just to track everywhere where
Yeah.
cargo components use that it shouldn't?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that like doesn't technically squarely
Mhm.
fall under component docs, but is probably someone has to actually, if we want it to be consistent, someone actually has to collate all these places and actually go change them. So
Okay.
whether it's
We could
like
also do
someone
a
has to do,
Zulip thread, which would be a little bit more easy for people to add to if we just say like, hey, please drop all documentation with cargo component references here.
Yeah, we can do that. We can just bump the existing, or maybe I don't know if that's appropriate to
I
bump
would
the.
leave that existing one because that's
Okay.
kind of conceptually why and what to do about it.
Okay.
And then this is we've assumed this is happening. Let's update all these things.
Okay. So I think I can look around. I'm writing down my own internal notes, and I think it's okay to sort of have issues or draft PRs for this sort of stuff and sort of open it up once that gets archived.
Awesome. Okay. And anything else about cargo component? Okay, let's move over to WASI. Eric, is it helpful to talk through any of the timeline updates and any other goals?
Honestly, I think just identifying that those are in progress is all I've really got. I'll need to coordinate with Yash and Bailey, I think, to just get the most up-to-date sense of what we want to reflect on the page for timeline, and the interface effort is just about sitting down and getting that done. So, yep.
Awesome. Great. Well, that covers our agenda. Are there any other items that people want to add? Okay, on that note, I think we can end early, which gives us time to take on some of those to-dos. And I'll push up the notes and the recording.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks.